Ever feel like you're swimming upstream, especially as a guy in England? Today, we're going deep on class, culture, all that. We've got some interesting stuff to dig into: history, trends in media, even food. It's all connected to this idea of power and what it means for, well, you.
It really is a fascinating time for this kind of deep dive. We're seeing a total shakeup of the old class system.
Okay, so let's unpack that. Old class system. One thing that really stood out in the research, you've got this family, the Grosvenors. They own like massive chunks of London, centuries of inherited wealth.
The Grosvenors are a really interesting case. So many aristocratic families faded, but they actually thrived in the modern economy. They didn't just sit on their land, they turned it into a financial powerhouse.
Like they figured out how to keep power in the family generation after generation. It's funny though, isn't it? England's got this obsession with its history, the castles, all that.
Yeah.
But there's also this underlying resentment toward that kind of inherited privilege.
A complex relationship, for sure. That's one of the things that makes the English class system so unique, I think. Trying to honor tradition, but also deal with the inequalities that never seem to go away.
And speaking of inequality, nowhere is it more obvious than in education. You've got places like Eton College. 20 British prime ministers came from there. The tuition is insane, and it's clearly a pipeline to the top.
It's not just the tuition, though. It's the whole culture they cultivate. The accent, the vocabulary, the connections. It's like a secret handshake to get into elite circles.
So it's not just what you learn, it's how you learn it and who you're with while you're learning it. It perpetuates this kind of, cultural dominance that's almost impossible to break.
Exactly. And that brings us to a really important question. How much social mobility is actually possible in a system like that? I mean, we see similar dynamics, maybe on a smaller scale, in the gap between state schools in rich areas and poor areas.
It's almost like starting a race with a handicap. And then on top of that, you've got how the media portrays different classes, the stereotypes, the narratives. It just reinforces the divisions, right?
Absolutely. Media is incredibly powerful. It's a mirror of society, but it also shapes how we see things. Take how crime is reported, for example. Middle-class crime, it's often framed as a tragedy. Working-class crime, it's almost expected. Like, it's just the environment they come from.
Like there's this assumption about certain groups.
Yeah.
That they're just predisposed to certain behaviors, which just feeds into existing biases.
Exactly. And those biases have consequences. Sentencing disparities, victim blaming, even the way masculinity is portrayed. Working-class men, they're often either thugs or helpless victims.
And then you've got this whole idea of the new man, sensitive, in touch with his feelings. But isn't that new masculinity just another pressure? I mean, maybe even harder for working class guys who don't have the resources for therapy, self-care, all that.
It's a really good point. Evolving expectations around masculinity can be a good thing, sure. They challenge the old, toxic definitions of what it means to be a man. But they also create new pressures, especially for those who don't have the social or economic capital to deal with them.
It's like asking guys to play by new rules on a playing field that's still totally uneven. And ties back to something else we talked about, that sense that traditional masculinity is under threat. Did you see this in the Brexit vote, for example? A lot of working class men felt ignored by the elite, right?
Brexit was definitely a symptom of deeper anxieties and frustrations. It exposed the cracks in our society, the growing gap between those who benefit from globalization and those who feel left behind. And for a lot of working class men, that feeling of being left behind, it's tied to their role in society, their identity as men.
So you've got economic shifts, changing ideas about masculinity, this underlying cultural unease. It's a recipe for unrest, isn't it? And one of the areas where this is playing out is food culture. You've got the chav diet at one end, which has become this shorthand for a working class taste, and then this rise of sustainable luxury, almost a status symbol for the elite.
Food is never just about what you eat, is it? It's about identity, culture, access. The chav diet, it's often mocked, but you have to understand the context. When fresh, healthy food is too expensive or just not available in your neighborhood, well, people turn to cheaper, processed options.
Yeah, I'm not saying a love for turkey Twizzlers means you're in a certain class, but it might say something about your food priorities. But jokes aside, makes a good point. Judging someone's food choices without understanding their circumstances, it's not just insensitive, it misses the bigger picture.
I completely agree. We have to move past those simplistic stories and look at the systemic factors. Why are certain communities food deserts? How does income affect what people eat? Those are the questions we need to be asking.
And then at the other end of the spectrum, you've got this sustainable luxury trend. Ethically sourced, organic, locally grown.
Yeah.
It's almost like a way for the wealthy to signal their virtue, isn't it?
It's really interesting, isn't it? Food as a way to show class distinction. It's not just about what you can afford, but the values you're showing through your consumption.
Like a whole new level of sophistication in how class is performed and expressed. But it's not all doom and gloom, is it? You've got these incredible initiatives popping up, food co-ops, community gardens, bringing people together around food.
And those initiatives are doing so much more than just providing food. They're building community, fostering connections, challenging that isolation that often comes with poverty.
It's a reminder that even in a system that can feel rigged, there are people working to make things fairer. And speaking of systems, we can't ignore technology. The internet was supposed to level the playing field, but it seems like it's just created new forms of inequality, hasn't it?
Absolutely. The digital divide is a very real problem. Access to tech, digital literacy, even having a strong online presence. These are all becoming new markers of class.
It's like there's a whole new rule book to learn, a new language to speak, just to succeed in the world today. And those who don't speak that language, well, they get left behind.
And that's where the gig economy comes in. Sure, it's created opportunities for some, but for many it's just exploitation and instability. People juggling multiple jobs, long hours, no benefits, no security.
A recipe for burnout, isn't it? Pushing people to their limits. But there are glimmers of hope, even in the tech world, right? What about online education platforms? Haven't they made learning more accessible?
For sure, access to education is crucial in this rapidly changing world. We need to be giving people the skills to adapt and thrive, and online platforms can definitely play a role in that.
But education alone isn't enough. We need to address the deeper inequalities that are holding people back, no matter how much they learn. Living wages, affordable housing, healthcare. Those are the building blocks of a fair society.
You're absolutely right. We need to look at the systemic factors, the root causes of these inequalities, and find solutions that actually work.
And I think it's important to remember that class isn't just about economics, is it? It's about identity. It's about how you see yourself in relation to everyone else and how you think they see you.
Exactly. And that's where cultural capital comes in. The knowledge, the skills, even the tastes you acquire growing up. It can open doors or close them, often without you even realizing it. It's a subtle form of privilege, just as powerful as money.
Think about language, for instance. The way you speak can instantly signal your class background. Even today, received pronunciation, that classic upper-class accent, still carries weight. It can open doors to elite institutions and professions.
And on the flip side, regional accents. Well, sometimes they can be a barrier. It's like there's this hidden code, a way of speaking that shows you belong to a certain group.
But what's fascinating is that we're seeing a shift in how language is used to signal class. Multicultural London English, for example. It's challenging the old hierarchies. It's a mix of influences, a melting pot of accents and slang. And it's becoming a marker of coolness and authenticity, especially among younger generations.
It's a sign that the old rules are changing, that class isn't fixed. It's dynamic, constantly evolving.
And it's not just language. What we buy, the way we consume. Those things play a huge role in shaping class identity, too. We live in a consumer society, and every choice, from the clothes we wear to the food we eat, it's being judged and interpreted.
It's like every purchase is a statement, intentional or not, and those statements are loaded with class symbolism. Take sustainable luxury again. It's a way for the wealthy to signal their environmental awareness, but it also sets them apart from everyone else.
Like saying, I can afford to care about the planet. But here's the thing, we're not just passive consumers. We have the power to make choices that reflect our values, to challenge those class distinctions.
Absolutely. We have to be mindful of the messages we send through what we buy. And we have to be critical of the marketing that's constantly bombarding us.
And one area where that's really relevant is travel. It's often sold as a way to expand your horizons, connect with other cultures, but it can also reinforce class divisions. Think about influencer culture and how it portrays travel as this luxurious, aspirational experience that's out of reach for most people.
It's this constant stream of images, exotic destinations, private jets, luxury hotels. It creates this sense of envy, of inadequacy, like it's saying, this is the life you should be living, which of course is impossible for most.
Yeah, it's a reminder that even something like travel can be twisted by class distinction.
Yeah.
But there is another side to this. Travel can be a force for good, for breaking down stereotypes and building empathy. It just depends on how you approach it.
Exactly. Done right, travel can be incredibly enriching. But it takes self-awareness, a willingness to engage with different perspectives, and a commitment to being ethical and responsible.
Speaking of engaging with different perspectives, Let's talk about art. Art's always been a powerful way to comment on society, to critique it, and it feels especially relevant now with inequality on the rise.
Art can absolutely challenge the status quo. It can spark conversations, inspire action. It can give a voice to the voiceless and expose the hypocrisy of those in power. Think of Banksy, for example. His work is often satirical, subversive, but it's rooted in this deep sense of social justice.
He's brilliant at exposing the absurdity of class and privilege. But art's not just about protest, right? It can also be a source of beauty, inspiration, and connection. It can bring people together across class lines, create this sense of shared humanity.
For sure. Public art installations, for instance, they can transform a city, spark conversations, and create a real sense of community. Think of the murals that have been popping up everywhere, often created by local artists, reflecting the stories and experiences of the people who live there.
It's like taking ownership of your space, telling your story, challenging the often elitist narratives of traditional art institutions. But even public art can be controversial. We've seen this with the debates about removing statues and monuments, right?
Those debates really highlight the complicated relationship between art, history, and identity. They show how art can be used to challenge and reinforce existing power structures. It's a reminder that art is never neutral. It's always part of a social and political context.
And that context is always changing, especially with the rise of digital art and online platforms. The internet's made art more accessible in a lot of ways, but it's also created new challenges. NFTs, for example, they've given artists new ways to make money from their work, but they've also raised concerns about accessibility and exclusivity.
It's a reminder that the art world, like everything else, is being shaped by technology and globalization, and those forces often make existing inequalities even worse.
We definitely have to be mindful of those dynamics as we navigate the changing landscape of art and culture. We need to support artists from all backgrounds, promote inclusivity, and challenge the gatekeepers of the art world.
Absolutely.
But art can't do it alone. We need to address the systemic inequalities that limit people's opportunities, no matter how talented they are. Education, housing, healthcare. These are the foundations of a just society.
You're absolutely right. It's about creating a society where everyone has the chance to thrive, regardless of their background, where class isn't a barrier to success, but a source of diversity and strength.
Okay, so we've talked about the problems. What about solutions? What can we actually do to challenge these systems that perpetuate inequality?
Well, it starts with education. We have to teach children about the history of class, about how these divisions are created and maintained, and we need to help them develop critical thinking skills so they can challenge those systems.
But education can't just be about facts and figures. It needs to be about empathy, about understanding, helping kids see the world through someone else's eyes, walk in someone else's shoes.
Exactly. And that requires exposure to different perspectives, different cultures, different ways of life, breaking down the barriers that separate us, both physical and psychological.
So it's not just about what's taught in the classroom, it's about the experiences we provide, the opportunities for real connection and understanding.
Precisely. And community engagement is a big part of that. We need to create opportunities for people from different backgrounds to come together, share their experiences, and work towards common goals.
Things like community gardens, for example.
Yeah.
They're not just about growing food, they're about building relationships, fostering a sense of shared responsibility.
And that can be incredibly powerful. It's an antidote to the isolation and division that so often come with class societies.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But we also need to address the economic inequalities at the root of the class system.
Right.
We need to create a more just economic system, one that rewards hard work and gives everyone a decent standard of living.
You're right. That means raising the minimum wage, strengthening unions, investing in public services.
And closing the tax loopholes that allow the wealthy to avoid paying their fair share. It's about creating a system where everyone contributes to the common good and where everyone benefits from economic prosperity.
You're spot on. But it's not just about economics, is it? It's about power. We need to challenge the concentration of power in the hands of a few and create a more democratic and participatory society.
So we're talking about reforming our political system, making it more responsive to the needs of ordinary people.
Yes, and we also need to challenge those media narratives that often reinforce class stereotypes and divisions.
We need to demand more diverse and nuanced representations of class, and we need to support media outlets that are committed to social justice.
Exactly.
But it's not enough to just wait for those at the top to change things. Change also happens at the grassroots level.
Absolutely. We need to support community organizations that are working to empower people and challenge inequality. We need to get involved in our local communities, build relationships with people from different backgrounds, and work together to create a more just and equitable world.
It sounds like a long road, a challenging one, but a road we have to travel if we want to build a better future for ourselves and for generations to come. But before we get overwhelmed by the enormity of it all, let's bring it back to a more personal level. We've talked about economics, politics, media, but what about the psychological impact of class?
That's a crucial part of this, and it often gets overlooked. Growing up in a certain environment with certain expectations can have a profound effect on your sense of self-worth.
It's like you internalize the messages you get from society
Yeah.
about your place in the world. And those messages can be really damaging, especially if they're constantly telling you you're not good enough, not smart enough, not worthy of success.
Absolutely. And this is where the cycle of poverty becomes so difficult to break. If you believe you're destined to fail, you're less likely to even try.
So, how do we break that cycle? How do we help people see themselves and their potential differently?
It starts with recognizing the problem, acknowledging that these psychological barriers are real. And then it's about creating opportunities for people to challenge those beliefs, to build their confidence, to see themselves as agents of change.
So, it's not just about changing the external circumstances, it's about changing the internal narrative, the way people see themselves and their place in the world. It's about empowering people to believe in their own potential.
You've got it. It's about fostering a sense of hope and possibility even when things are tough.
Okay, so we've talked about the big picture, the history, the systems, the challenges, but let's bring it back down to earth a bit. What are some of the new ways class is being defined in modern England?
One of the most obvious is a rise of these new elites. Tech billionaires, hedge fund managers, the crypto crowd. They're accumulating wealth at an incredible rate, and their influence is changing everything.
It's like there's this whole new class of the super rich, and they're playing by a different set of rules than the old money aristocracy.
Exactly. They're not bound by the same traditions or social norms. They're disrupting industries, rewriting the rules of finance, even going to space. Their wealth isn't just money, it's power, it's access.
And that power is translating into political influence, isn't it? We're seeing this growing disconnect between the political elite and the concerns of everyday people.
Absolutely. And that's where tax disparity becomes such a big issue. When the wealthy can avoid paying their fair share, it undermines the foundations of a just society.
It erodes trust in the system, fuels resentment.
Exactly. And it means fewer resources for essential public services like education and healthcare, which just widens the gap between rich and poor even further.
It's a vicious cycle. You've also talked about how access to resources is becoming a new marker of class. What are some examples of that?
Well, think about travel. A British passport might give you visa-free access to a lot of countries, but the reality is not everyone can afford to travel, even if they have the legal right to.
The flights, the accommodation, the travel insurance, it all adds up. And that creates a barrier for people from lower socioeconomic backgrounds.
And we see that same dynamic in other areas too. Access to healthcare, healthy food, even childcare.
It's almost like there are two different Englands now, one for the wealthy and one for everyone else. And those realities are getting further and further apart.
That's why it's so important to have these conversations, to raise awareness and to challenge the systems that keep these divides in place. We have to make sure that everyone has a fair shot at a good life, regardless of their background.
You mentioned earlier that social capital, your networks, your connections, is becoming increasingly important. It's almost like a new currency in the modern world, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It's not just about who you know, but who knows you, and how those connections can open doors to opportunities. Think about internships, for example. They're often unpaid, but they're seen as essential for getting ahead in certain industries.
But not everyone can afford to work for free. So you're essentially excluding people from lower income backgrounds from those opportunities.
Exactly. And we see that same dynamic play out in mentoring relationships, networking events, even social media. Who you follow, who follows you, who likes your posts. It all contributes to your social capital.
It's like there's this hidden economy of social capital operating alongside the traditional economy. And it's often tilted in favor of those who already have privilege.
Exactly. And that's why education is more important than ever. We need to equip people with the skills and knowledge they need to navigate this new landscape.
And it's not just about technical skills, right? It's about soft skills, communication, collaboration, critical thinking.
Those are the skills that will help people adapt to a rapidly changing world. And they're often overlooked in traditional education systems.
We need to rethink how we educate. Prepare people not just for jobs, but for lives of meaning and purpose.
Absolutely. We need a more holistic approach, one that addresses not just cognitive skills, but social and emotional skills as well. It's about helping people become well rounded individuals who can contribute to society in meaningful ways.
And part of that means changing how we talk about and address poverty. The media often frames poverty as a personal failing, a lack of effort or ambition. But the reality is, poverty is a systemic issue. It's rooted in structural inequalities.
Exactly. It's about access to opportunity, to resources, to a fair chance.
We need to challenge those harmful narratives and recognize that poverty is not a choice.
Absolutely. We need to invest in solutions that address the root causes of poverty, not just the symptoms.
That means investing in education, healthcare, affordable housing, social safety nets.
You're right. It also means creating a more just and equitable economic system, one that provides everyone with a living wage and the opportunity to thrive.
And I think that brings us to a really important question. How is work itself changing? And how are those changes impacting class identity? The gig economy, for example, has really blurred the lines between traditional employment and self-employment. And it's not always clear whether those changes are good or bad.
It's definitely a mixed bag. On the one hand, the gig economy offers flexibility and autonomy. On the other hand, it often lacks job security, benefits, and fair wages.
We're also seeing a rise in automation, which is displacing workers from certain industries and creating a lot of anxiety about the future of work.
It's a time of great uncertainty, and it's forcing us to rethink the very nature of work and its relationship to class.
So how do we prepare people for this new world of work? What are the skills and qualities they'll need to thrive?
Lifelong learning is essential. We need to equip people with the skills and knowledge they need to adapt to a rapidly changing job market.
But it's not just about retraining. It's about creating a more supportive and inclusive work environment, one that values diversity and recognizes the contributions of all workers, regardless of their background.
Absolutely. This includes addressing issues like workplace discrimination, promoting fair wages and benefits, and ensuring that everyone has access to opportunities for advancement. We need to move beyond the traditional model of work, which is often hierarchical and exploitative, and create a new model that's based on collaboration, respect, and shared prosperity.
It's a tall order.
Yeah.
But it's essential if we want to create a more just and equitable society.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned earlier that the traditional class structures of England are evolving. How are they adapting to the modern world? What are some of the key changes you're seeing?
One of the biggest is that the lines between working class and middle class are getting blurry.
Right. The decline of traditional industries, like manufacturing, has led to job losses and wage stagnation. It's harder for working class families to maintain their standard of living.
And at the same time, we're seeing more and more precarious work, people having to take on multiple low-wage jobs just to make ends meet. It's created this feeling of economic insecurity and anxiety, even among people who used to think of themselves as middle class.
It's like the ground is shifting beneath our feet, and it's hard to know where you stand anymore. What other changes are you noticing?
Another big one is the growing importance of education as a marker of class. In the past, it was possible to move up in the world through hard work and determination, even without a formal education.
But today, it feels like a university degree is almost essential for getting a good job.
That's right, and that creates a barrier for people from lower income backgrounds. They often face financial and social obstacles to going to university.
So it's not just about hard work anymore, it's about having the right qualifications, which of course are often tied to your social background.
Exactly. We're also seeing a shift in how class is expressed through cultural consumption.
Interesting. So you're saying it's not just about the material possessions anymore, the
Yeah.
cars, the houses, the clothes.
Right. In the past, class distinctions were often signaled through those kinds of things. But today, class is increasingly expressed through less tangible things, like taste, knowledge, and experiences.
Give me an example of what you mean.
Well, think about the rise of foodie culture. Knowing about artisanal cheeses or craft beers has become a way for the middle and upper classes to distinguish themselves.
Okay, I see what you're saying. It's like a subtle way of signaling your sophistication, your worldliness.
Exactly. And we see that same dynamic play out in the way people consume art, music, even travel.
So it's not just about what you consume, but about how you consume it and what that consumption says about your social status.
Precisely. These subtle markers of class can be hard to spot, but they're just as powerful as those more overt displays of wealth that were common in the past.
Look like a whole new language of class is emerging. one that's more nuanced and harder to decipher.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to pay attention to these subtle cues to understand how class is being performed and reproduced in everyday life.
So it's not just about the big structural forces, but also about the small, everyday interactions that shape how we see ourselves and others.
Exactly. Class is everywhere, even if we're not always aware of it.
And one of the places where it's perhaps most influential is in the realm of family. We can't talk about class without acknowledging the impact of family dynamics, right?
Absolutely. Family structures are changing, and those changes are having a profound impact on how class is transmitted across generations.
For instance, divorce rates are high, which can destabilize families and make it harder for children to achieve upward mobility.
And we're also seeing a rise in single parent households and same sex couples, which are challenging traditional notions of family and creating new dynamics.
And of course, family income plays a huge role in shaping a child's opportunities, from access to education to extracurricular activities to social networks.
You're right. And family values and attitudes also play a crucial role in shaping a child's sense of self worth and their aspirations.
A child raised in a family that values education and hard work is more likely to succeed than a child raised in a family that struggles with poverty and instability.
Exactly.
So it's not just about the material resources a family has, but also about the values and beliefs they instill in their children.
Exactly. Family is a powerful force in shaping a child's trajectory in life.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, and it's clear that the landscape of class and culture in England is complex and ever evolving.
There are definitely many challenges, but also some glimmers of hope.
What are some of the things that give you optimism about the future of class in England? What makes you think that we can create a more just and equitable society?
Well, I'm encouraged by the growing awareness of these issues. People are starting to talk about class more openly and honestly, and that's the first step towards change.
Right, we can't address a problem if we don't acknowledge it exists.
Exactly. We're also seeing a rise in activism and social movements, with people from all walks of life coming together to demand a more just and equitable society.
There's a sense that people are waking up to the injustices of the current system and are willing to fight for change.
That's right. And even technology, while it can exacerbate inequality, also has the potential to be a force for good.
How so?
Think about how social media is being used to connect people, raise awareness, and organize for change. It's a powerful tool that can be used to challenge the status quo and create new possibilities.
That's a great point. And beyond those large scale forces, I'm also heartened by the resilience and creativity of the human spirit. We're seeing people find innovative ways to adapt to the challenges of the modern world, from creating new forms of work to building stronger communities.
You're right. There's a spirit of innovation and a willingness to experiment that gives me hope for the future. And I think it's important to remember that the future of class in England is not predetermined. It's up to us to shape it.
It's a reminder that we're not passive bystanders in this story. We have agency, we have a voice, and we can choose to create a different future.
Absolutely. The choices we make today will determine the kind of society we leave for future generations.
Okay, so we've talked about the past, the present, and the potential for the future. But let's get a little more specific about some of the areas where class is playing out in really fascinating ways. One area that intrigues me is the realm of leisure and recreation. Leisure activities have always been a marker of class, from the sports we play to the holidays we take.
That's right. But technology is changing how we spend our free time, blurring the lines between traditional forms of leisure and creating new possibilities.
For example.
Well, think about the rise of online gaming. It's a form of leisure that can be enjoyed by people from all walks of life. And it's created a new community that transcends traditional class boundaries.
But there's also a risk that technology could exacerbate existing inequalities in access to leisure.
Right, that's a good point. For example, if you don't have a reliable internet connection or the latest gaming console, you're likely to be excluded from certain online communities and experiences.
It's like a new form of digital divide, only this time it's about access to fun and recreation.
Exactly. And we need to be mindful of these dynamics as we navigate the evolving landscape of leisure and recreation.
Another trend I've noticed is the growing awareness of the importance of work-life balance. People are increasingly recognizing the need to prioritize their well-being and to find activities that bring them joy and fulfillment outside of work.
That's a positive development. It can help break down the rigid boundaries that have traditionally separated work and leisure.
And it can also create opportunities for people from different backgrounds to connect and build relationships. Think about community sports leagues, for example. They bring people together from all walks of life, fostering a sense of camaraderie and shared purpose.
Absolutely. And those kinds of connections can be really valuable, especially in a society that's becoming increasingly fragmented. We need to create more spaces like that where people can come together and enjoy leisure activities in a way that transcends class divisions.
But it's not just about creating new spaces. It's also about challenging the existing structures that often limit access to leisure. For instance, the high cost of many leisure activities, like gym memberships or holidays.
Exactly. We need to make sure that leisure isn't just a luxury for the wealthy, but something.
That's right. We need to make sure that leisure isn't just a luxury for the wealthy, but something that everyone can enjoy.
And that might mean rethinking how these activities are funded and supported, maybe through public investment or community initiatives.
You're right. We need to think outside the box and find solutions that work for everyone.
One of the most powerful examples of how leisure can actually challenge class divisions is in the world of sports. Sports have always had this ability to bring people together no matter what their background is.
It's true. Think about how football unites fans from all walks of life. You've got people from all different social classes cheering for the same team, sharing that passion and camaraderie.
Yeah, it's like all those divisions just melt away. Exactly. But at the same time, sports can also be a reflection of those very divisions. Certain sports tend to be associated with the elite, while others are seen as working class pursuits.
Right. Golf has always had that image of being a sport for the wealthy, while football is often seen as a working class game.
Hmm.
And those perceptions can really shape opportunities.
Exactly. If you grow up in a working class family, you might not even consider taking up golf because it's just not part of your world. And on the flip side, someone from a wealthy background might not see the value in playing football.
So those assumptions, those cultural perceptions can really limit people's choices and opportunities.
Absolutely. We need to challenge those stereotypes and create a more inclusive sporting culture, one that recognizes the value of all sports and makes them accessible to people from all backgrounds.
And that's not just about providing access to facilities and equipment. It's about changing attitudes and perceptions.
You're spot on. We need to show young people that they can pursue any sport they're passionate about, regardless of their background.
Absolutely. Now, are there any sports emerging that are actually breaking down those traditional class barriers?
We're seeing some really interesting developments in that area. Parkour, for example, has become incredibly popular in recent years.
Parkour, that's the one where people are jumping over walls and doing all those crazy acrobatic moves, right?
Exactly. It emerged from the urban streets of France and has spread all over the world.
So it's got this kind of edgy, rebellious vibe.
Exactly. And it's attracted a really diverse group of people from all different backgrounds. It's not seen as a sport for the elite or for the working class. It's just for anyone who's passionate about movement and pushing their limits.
I love that. It's like it's creating its own subculture, its own community that's not defined by traditional class boundaries.
Exactly. And we're also seeing the rise of esports, which is a rapidly growing industry.
Esports, so we're talking about competitive video gaming, right?
Exactly. It's attracting millions of players and spectators worldwide, and it's generating huge amounts of revenue.
And what's interesting about esports is that it's a digital sport.
That's right. So in theory, it's accessible to anyone with an internet connection. It doesn't matter where you come from, what your background is, or how much money you have. If you've got the skills, you can compete.
That's really interesting. It's like esports is creating a new level playing field where success is determined by talent and strategy, not by your social background.
Exactly. And that's really exciting. It shows that it's possible to challenge the traditional hierarchies in sports and create new opportunities for people from all walks of life.
I think what's really powerful about these new forms of sports is that they're not only challenging the traditional hierarchies, but they're also creating new opportunities for social mobility. They're showing that it's possible to achieve success and recognition through talent and hard work, regardless of your background.
That's a powerful message, and it's one that we need to amplify.
Absolutely. We need to support these new forms of sports and create more opportunities for people from all backgrounds to participate. And we need to challenge the media narratives that often portray traditional sports as the only path to athletic success.
The future of sports is diverse, inclusive, and exciting, and it has the potential to play a powerful role in shaping a more equitable and just society.
Okay, so we've talked about leisure in sports, but there's another dimension to this whole conversation that I think we need to address: religion. How does religion fit into the evolving social hierarchy in England? It feels like it's a topic people shy away from these days.
It's definitely a complex and often sensitive topic. Religion has traditionally played a significant role in shaping social norms and values in England, and it continues to be a powerful force in the lives of many people.
But the religious landscape is changing, isn't it? We're seeing a decline in traditional forms of religious affiliation and a rise in secularism. So how does that impact the relationship between religion and class?
It's an interesting question. Some people argue that religion is becoming less relevant as a marker of class. They say people are increasingly choosing to define themselves based on other factors like education, occupation, or lifestyle.
So it's like religion is becoming more of a personal choice rather than a social identifier.
Exactly. But others argue that religion continues to be a significant factor in shaping class divisions, particularly in communities where religious affiliation is strongly tied to cultural identity.
For example, in some Muslim communities, there's a sense that Islam is a source of empowerment and resistance against a dominant culture that's often perceived as hostile or discriminatory.
You're right. And that can lead to a strengthening of religious identity as a way of asserting one's difference and challenging the status quo.
So, in that sense, religion can be a way of navigating and resisting class structures.
Exactly. But it's important to remember that religion can also be a force for social cohesion, bringing people together across class lines.
Right, churches and other religious institutions often serve as community hubs, providing support and resources to people in need, regardless of their background.
Absolutely. And we're also seeing a growing movement of interfaith dialogue and cooperation with people from different religious traditions coming together to work towards common goals. It's really encouraging.
It is. It shows that religion can be a bridge between people rather than a barrier. But we also need to acknowledge that religion can be used to justify inequality or to exclude those who are different.
You're right. There are religious groups that oppose policies promoting equality and inclusion.
We need to be willing to challenge those views and to promote a more inclusive and tolerant society, one that respects the rights and dignity of all people.
Absolutely. The relationship between class and religion is complex, and it will continue to evolve as society changes, but we need to find ways to harness the power of religion for good, to promote social justice, and to create a more equitable and compassionate world.
Well said. Okay, so we've talked about sports, leisure, religion, but we keep circling back to education as this key factor in all of this. It really does feel like it's at the heart of so many of the challenges and opportunities we've been discussing.
You're absolutely right. Education has the potential to empower people to broaden their horizons and to create opportunities for upward mobility.
But the education system itself often reflects the very inequalities it's supposed to address.
Exactly. We've got this system of private schools with their high tuition fees and exclusive networks that provides a clear path to success for the wealthy. Meanwhile, many state schools, particularly those in disadvantaged areas, are struggling to provide even basic resources.
It creates this sense that the game is rigged from the start.
Absolutely. And it makes it incredibly difficult for children from lower income backgrounds to break the cycle of poverty.
So what needs to change? How do we create a more equitable education system?
It requires a multifaceted approach. First and foremost, we need a commitment to invest in early childhood education. Those early years are crucial for development, and we need to make sure that all children have access to high-quality early learning experiences.
That makes sense. Give them the best possible start in life.
Exactly. And then we need to ensure that state schools are adequately funded. We can't expect them to provide a quality education if they're constantly struggling with budget cuts and a lack of resources.
Right. It's about giving teachers the tools and support they need to do their jobs effectively.
And beyond funding, we also need to address the structural barriers that limit access to educational opportunities. For example, we need to make sure that university is affordable for everyone, regardless of their background.
So looking at things like tuition fees and financial aid.
Exactly. But it's not just about money. It's also about creating a culture that values education and encourages everyone to pursue their full potential.
It's about changing attitudes and expectations both within the education system and within society as a whole.
You're absolutely right. We need to move away from this idea that education is a zero-sum game where one person's success comes at the expense of another's. We need to create a system where everyone can succeed.
A rising tide lifts all boats, as they say.
Precisely. And I think it's important to remember that education isn't just about acquiring knowledge and skills. It's about shaping the kind of society we want to live in. If we want to create a society that's fair, just, and inclusive, we need to start by investing in education for all.
Beautifully said. Okay, so education is key. But we also need to talk about the role of the media in shaping perceptions of class. The media has this incredible power to influence public opinion, and it's not always used responsibly.
You're absolutely right. The way the media portrays different social groups can reinforce stereotypes, perpetuate biases, and influence public opinion.
For example, the working class is often depicted as lazy, uneducated, and prone to criminal behavior, while the upper class is often portrayed as sophisticated, intelligent, and successful.
Exactly. And those narratives are incredibly damaging. They create this us versus them mentality that divides society and makes it harder to address the underlying issues of inequality.
So what can we do about it? How do we challenge those harmful narratives and create a more balanced and nuanced representation of class in the media?
Well, I think it starts with awareness. We need to be more critical of the media we consume, and we need to call out those harmful stereotypes when we see them.
Right, don't just passively accept what you're being told. Question it, analyze it, and if it doesn't feel right, speak up.
Exactly. And we also need to support media outlets that are committed to providing fair and accurate representations of different social groups.
Support independent media, alternative voices, and outlets that are actively challenging the dominant narratives.
Precisely. The more diverse our media landscape, the better.
And we need to remember that we're not just consumers of media, we're also producers.
That's a great point. We can create our own content, share our own stories, and challenge the dominant narratives from within.
It's about using our voices to amplify the voices of those who are often marginalized and misrepresented.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the most exciting things about the digital age. It's given us new tools to create and share our own narratives.
And that can be a powerful force for social change.
One of the most significant challenges facing England today is the growing digital divide. We've touched on it a bit already, but it's worth diving a bit deeper.
Right. We've talked about how access to technology and digital literacy are becoming increasingly important in almost every aspect of life.
Exactly. From education to employment to social participation, being digitally connected is essential.
But not everyone has equal access to those resources, do they?
Unfortunately not. People from lower income backgrounds are less likely to have a computer or internet access at home. And even if they do, they're less likely to have the skills and knowledge they need to navigate the digital world effectively.
It creates a digital underclass, people who are being left behind in the digital age.
Precisely. And that has real world consequences. It can impact their ability to find jobs, to access education, to stay connected with family and friends. It can even affect their health and well being.
So, how do we bridge this digital divide?
It requires a multi-pronged approach. First and foremost, we need to invest in affordable internet access. High-speed internet should be treated as a utility like electricity or water that everyone has access to.
Right. It's become so essential for modern life that it shouldn't be a luxury.
Exactly. We also need to provide digital literacy training, particularly for those who are most at risk of being left behind. This includes teaching people basic computer skills, how to use the internet safely and effectively, and how to access online resources.
It's not just about providing access to the technology, it's about giving people the skills and knowledge they need to use it effectively.
Absolutely. And I think it's also important to create a more inclusive digital environment. This means designing websites and apps that are accessible to people with disabilities, translating online content into different languages, and making sure that everyone feels welcome and safe online.
So it's not just about the technology itself, it's about the culture and the values that shape how we use it.
Precisely. We need to make sure that the digital world reflects the diversity and inclusivity of the real world.
One area where the digital divide is especially apparent is in the realm of online education. We talked earlier about how online learning platforms can make education more accessible and affordable, but they can also exacerbate existing inequalities.
Absolutely. If you don't have a reliable internet connection or a quiet place to study, it's going to be incredibly difficult to succeed in an online course.
And we also need to be mindful of the quality of online education.
Yeah.
Not all online courses are created equal.
That's right. There's a risk that some online courses will become a cheap alternative to traditional education, providing substandard learning experiences that don't adequately prepare students for the workforce.
So how do we ensure that online education is high quality, accessible, and affordable for everyone?
It's a complex challenge, but I think it starts with setting clear standards for online courses. We need to make sure that they're rigorous, relevant, and taught by qualified instructors. We also need to provide support for students, such as access to tutors, mentors, and technical assistance. And we need to make sure that online learning is affordable for everyone, regardless of their income.
It's about creating a level playing field in the digital world of education.
Exactly. And I think it's also important to remember that online learning is not a replacement for face-to-face interaction.
Right. It's a valuable tool, but it's not a silver bullet.
Exactly. We need to find ways to blend online learning with traditional forms of education to create a more holistic and engaging learning experience.
Okay, so we've talked about the digital divide and online education. Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about something that affects us all, the relationship between work and leisure. It feels like technology has really blurred the lines between our professional and personal lives.
It absolutely has. We're constantly bombarded with emails, notifications, and messages. It's hard to switch off and truly relax.
It's like work is constantly creeping into our leisure time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that can lead to burnout, stress, and a decline in both our mental and physical health.
So, how do we reclaim our leisure time in this hyper connected world?
Right.
How do we create boundaries between work and life?
It's a challenge, but it's essential. We need to set limits on our work hours to create dedicated time for leisure activities and to make a conscious effort to disconnect from work when we're not on the clock.
Easier said than done, right?
It definitely takes effort, but it's worth it. Our health and well being depend on it.
And technology, while it's part of the problem, can also be part of the solution.
That's right. We can use technology to help us manage our time more effectively, to schedule breaks, and to connect with friends and family.
And there are also new forms of leisure emerging thanks to technology.
Exactly. Think about online gaming, for example. It's become a global phenomenon, connecting people from all over the world and creating new communities.
And virtual reality and augmented reality are creating immersive experiences that can transport us to new worlds and allow us to interact with others in new ways.
It's an exciting time to be exploring the possibilities of leisure and recreation in the digital age.
Absolutely. But we also need to be mindful of the potential risks of technology.
You're right. Things like addiction, social isolation, and the erosion of privacy are real concerns.
So it's about finding that balance, right?
Yeah.
Using technology in a way that enhances our lives, not diminishes them.
Exactly. Technology is a tool, and like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad. It's up to us to decide how we want to use it.
Now let's talk about something that's becoming a major concern for people across the social spectrum, the housing crisis.
It's a huge issue, and it's impacting people from all walks of life.
The cost of housing has skyrocketed in recent years, making it increasingly difficult for people to afford a decent place to live.
And this is particularly acute in major cities like London, where the average house price is astronomical.
It's pushing people to the brink.
Absolutely. We're seeing a rise in homelessness, overcrowding, and people being forced to move away from their communities because they simply can't afford to live there anymore.
So what's driving this housing crisis?
It's a complex issue with a number of contributing factors. One factor is population growth. More people means more demand for housing.
Right, supply and demand.
Exactly. But we're also not building enough affordable housing. And there's been a rise in buy-to-let investors who are snapping up properties and driving up prices. This has created a situation where housing is increasingly treated as an investment rather than a basic human need.
So it's not just about having a roof over your head, it's about having a safe, stable, and affordable place to call home.
You're right. And the housing crisis is having ripple effect throughout society. It's impacting people's health, their well-being, their relationships, their job prospects.
It's a crisis that's affecting everyone directly or indirectly. So what can be done about it? What are the solutions?
We need to invest in affordable housing. We need to regulate the private rental sector to make it fairer for tenants. And we need to create a more equitable housing market that prioritizes people over profit.
These are big systemic changes, but they're essential if we want to create a society where everyone has access to decent and affordable housing.
Absolutely. The housing crisis is a symptom of a deeper problem and the growing inequality in our society.
We need to address the root causes of this inequality, such as low wages, precarious work, and the concentration of wealth in the hands of a few.
You're right. We need to create an economy that works for everyone, not just the privileged few.
Okay, so we've talked about the housing crisis and the need for a more just and equitable economy. Now let's talk about something a bit more lighthearted: food culture.
Ah, yes, food. One of the great pleasures in life. But as with so many things, our relationship with food is shaped by our class background.
Absolutely. What we eat, how we eat it, and even how we talk about food can reveal our social status and aspirations.
For example, the rise of foodie culture has created a new hierarchy of taste. Certain foods and cuisines are now associated with sophistication and refinement, while others are seen as more down-to-earth or working class.
It's like the difference between a Michelin-starred restaurant and a greasy spoon cafe.
Exactly. Both places serve food, but they cater to different clientele and convey different messages about social status.
And we also see these class distinctions in the way people shop for food.
Absolutely. Organic food farmers markets, artisanal products, these are often associated with the middle and upper classes.
While budget supermarkets and processed foods are seen as more working class.
Exactly. But these distinctions are not just about taste or preference, they're also about access and affordability.
Right. Healthy, fresh food can be expensive, and it's not always readily available in lower income neighborhoods.
Exactly. This creates a situation where people from lower socioeconomic backgrounds are more likely to eat unhealthy diets, which can lead to health problems and further exacerbate inequality.
It's a vicious cycle. We need to make healthy food more affordable and accessible to everyone.
Absolutely. That means investing in community gardens, supporting local farmers, and educating people about nutrition and healthy eating habits.
And there's another dimension to food culture that's gaining momentum: sustainability.
You're right. People are becoming more aware of the environmental impact of their food choices, and they're looking for ways to eat more sustainably.
This includes things like reducing their meat consumption, choosing organic and locally sourced produce, and minimizing food waste.
Exactly. And this is a positive development. It shows that people are starting to think more critically about where their food comes from and the impact it has on the planet.
But we also need to be mindful of the ways in which these trends can reinforce class divisions.
You're right. Organic food and sustainable products are often more expensive, making them inaccessible to many people.
We need to make sure that sustainability is not just a luxury for the wealthy, but a value that's embraced by everyone.
Absolutely. We need to find ways to make sustainable food choices more affordable and accessible to everyone, regardless of their income.
Okay, so we've talked about food, but there's another area where class identity is really visible: fashion.
Ah, fashion. A powerful form of self expression. But as with so many things, fashion can be used to reinforce social hierarchy.
Absolutely. The clothes we wear can signal our social status, our aspirations, and our values. And the fashion industry, with its focus on trends, exclusivity, and conspicuous consumption, often plays into these divisions.
Think about high end fashion brands. They use luxury materials, celebrity endorsements, and limited edition releases to create a sense of desire and aspiration.
It's like they're selling a lifestyle, an image, as much as they're selling clothes.
Exactly. And that image is often unattainable for most people.
It creates this culture of keeping up with the Joneses, where people are constantly striving to acquire the latest trends, even if they can't afford it.
You're right. And that can lead to debt insecurity and a focus on material possessions rather than more meaningful values.
So is fashion inherently problematic when it comes to class?
Not necessarily. There's a growing movement of ethical and sustainable fashion. Designers and brands are focusing on using eco-friendly materials, fair labor practices, and local production.
That's encouraging. It sounds like they're trying to change the industry from within.
Exactly. And we as consumers have a role to play as well.
By making conscious choices about the clothes we buy, considering not only the style and price, but also the ethical and environmental impact.
Precisely. We have the power to support brands that are aligned with our values and to reject those that perpetuate harmful practices. Fashion has the power to be a force for positive change, but it's up to us to demand better and to create a more just and equitable fashion system.
Now let's shift our focus to a very public space where class dynamics often play out: public art.
Public art has the power to transform urban spaces, to inspire creativity, and to foster a sense of community.
But it can also be quite controversial, can't it?
It absolutely can,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to questions of representation, ownership, and access.
We've seen this recently with the debates over the removal of statues and monuments that commemorate figures from England's colonial past.
Those debates highlight the complex relationship between art history and identity. They show how public art can be used to both celebrate and challenge the status quo.
So how do we approach public art in a way that's thoughtful, inclusive, and meaningful?
I think it starts with recognizing that public art is not neutral. It always carries a message, whether it's intended or not. We need to approach public art with a critical eye, recognizing both its potential to inspire and to provoke.
And we need to ensure that public art is inclusive, representative, and accessible to everyone. It should reflect the diversity and complexity of our society.
Absolutely. And that means supporting artists from all backgrounds, engaging communities in the creation of public art, and challenging the traditional power structures that often dictate what art is deemed worthy of public display.
It's about democratizing the art world, making it more accessible and relevant to everyone.
Exactly. Public art has the power to transform our cities and to enrich our lives, but only if we use it in a way that benefits everyone.
And speaking of making art more accessible, we need to talk about art education.
Art education has the potential to empower individuals to foster creativity and to promote critical thinking.
But as with so many things, access to art education is often unequal, isn't it?
And unfortunately, yes. Children from wealthier backgrounds have more opportunities to participate in arts programs, to visit museums, and to develop their artistic talents.
And that perpetuates the cycle of privilege, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. We need to make art education more accessible to everyone, regardless of their background.
So how do we do that?
It requires a commitment to investing in arts programs in state schools. We need to provide scholarships and financial support to talented students from low-income backgrounds. And we need to create more opportunities for community engagement in the arts.
It's about making art a part of everyone's life, not just a privilege for the few.
Exactly. Art education is not just about creating artists. It's about creating well-rounded individuals who are able to think critically, to express themselves creatively, and to appreciate the beauty and diversity of the world around them.
And speaking of the art world, the digital age is having a profound impact on how art is created, shared, and consumed.
That's right. Online platforms are creating new opportunities for artists to showcase their work, to connect with audiences, and to build careers.
But those platforms also present new challenges, don't they?
They absolutely do. Things like algorithms that determine what art is seen by the public, the proliferation of fake art and plagiarism, and the commodification of art through platforms like NFTs.
So it's a mixed bag.
Exactly. We need to navigate these challenges carefully, ensuring that the digital world enhances the art world, not diminishes it.
And how do we do that?
By supporting artists, promoting ethical practices, and fostering a culture of appreciation and respect for art in all its forms.
It's about recognizing that art is essential for our well-being, our creativity, and our sense of shared humanity.
You're absolutely right.
Now let's circle back to something we touched on earlier, the role of sports in society. We talked about how sports can both reflect and challenge class divisions, but I think it's worth exploring this topic a bit further.
I agree. Sports have this incredible power to bring people together, to transcend social and economic barriers, and to inspire us with stories of human achievement.
But at the same time, sports can also be incredibly divisive, reinforcing existing inequalities and perpetuating harmful stereotypes.
That's right. We see this in the way certain sports are associated with particular social classes, the way athletes from different backgrounds are treated by the media and the public, and the way money and power often influence the outcome of sporting events.
So how do we reconcile these two sides of sports? How do we celebrate its unifying potential while acknowledging and addressing its darker side?
It's a complex challenge, but I think it starts with recognizing that sports are not immune to the social and political forces that shape our world.
Right. Sports are a microcosm of society. They reflect our values, our beliefs, our prejudices.
Exactly. And if we want to create a more just and equitable sporting culture, we need to address those underlying issues.
So we need to look beyond the scores and the statistics and think about the social context in which sports are played.
Precisely. We need to think about the access and opportunities available to young people from different backgrounds. We need to challenge the media narratives that often reinforce stereotypes and perpetuate divisions, and we need to hold those in power accountable for creating a fair and inclusive sporting environment.
It sounds like a lot of work.
It is, but it's important work. Sports have the power to be a force for good in the world, but only if we're willing to confront the ways in which they can also be used to reinforce existing inequalities.
Well said. Now, I want to bring our focus back to the media and its role in shaping perceptions of class. We've already talked about the need for more diverse and nuanced representations of different social groups in the media, but I think it's worth exploring this topic a bit further.
Absolutely. The media plays a crucial role in shaping how we understand the world, and it has a responsibility to portray different social groups fairly and accurately.
But that doesn't always happen, does it? Often the media relies on stereotypes and cliches that reinforce existing biases and prejudices.
You're right. We see this in the way working class people are often portrayed as lazy, uneducated, and prone to criminal behavior, while the upper classes are often depicted as sophisticated, intelligent, and successful.
And these portrayals have real-world consequences, don't they?
Absolutely. They can lead to discrimination, prejudice, and social exclusion.
So how do we challenge these harmful narratives and create a more balanced and accurate representation of class in the media?
I think it starts with awareness. We need to be more critical of the media we consume, and we need to call out those harmful stereotypes when we see them.
Right? Don't just passively accept what you're being told.
Right.
Question it, analyze it, and if it doesn't feel right, speak up.
Exactly. We also need to support media outlets that are committed to providing fair and accurate representations of different social groups.
Support independent media, alternative voices, and outlets that are actively challenging the dominant narratives.
Precisely. The more diverse our media landscape, the better.
And we need to remember that we're not just consumers of media, we're also producers.
That's a great point. We can create our own content, share our own stories, and challenge the dominant narratives from within.
It's about using our voices to amplify the voices of those who are often marginalized and misrepresented.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the most exciting things about the digital age. It's given us new tools to create and share our own narratives.
And that can be a powerful force for social change.
Absolutely.
Now, I want to touch on something that's been a recurring theme throughout our conversation, technology. We've talked about how technology can both exacerbate and mitigate class divisions, but I think it's worth exploring this tension a bit further.
I agree. Technology is a double-edged sword. It has the potential to create incredible opportunities, but it can also reinforce existing inequalities and create new ones.
For example, we've talked about the digital divide and how it's creating a new underclass of people who are excluded from the benefits of the digital economy.
That's right. And we've also talked about how technology is changing the nature of work, creating both new opportunities and new challenges for workers.
And we've discussed how technology is shaping our leisure time, blurring the lines between work and play, and creating both new forms of entertainment and new anxieties.
So, how do we navigate this complex landscape? How do we harness the power of technology for good while mitigating its potential harms?
It's a big question, but I think it starts with being aware of the potential pitfalls.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We need to be mindful of the ways in which technology can be used to reinforce existing inequalities.
And we need to be proactive in using technology to create a more just and equitable society.
That means investing in digital literacy programs, promoting affordable internet access, and supporting the development of ethical and inclusive technologies.
It's about making sure that everyone has the opportunity to benefit from the digital revolution, not just the privileged few.
Exactly. And it's about using technology to empower people, to connect them with opportunities, and to create a more just and equitable world.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. We've explored the history of class in England, examined how it's evolving in the modern world, and discussed some of the challenges and opportunities we face in creating a more just and equitable society. It's been a fascinating and thought-provoking journey, to say the least.
I agree. And it's clear that there's no easy answers or quick fixes, but I think the most important takeaway is that class is not destiny. It's a complex and dynamic force that's constantly being shaped and reshaped by a multitude of factors.
And we have the power to influence those factors, to challenge the status quo, and to create a more just and equitable world. It starts with awareness, with education, with action.
Absolutely. And I think the sources you've shared provide a really valuable starting point for that journey. They offer insights, perspectives, and even concrete examples of how people are working to create change.
From community initiatives to policy reforms to individual acts of kindness and compassion, there are countless ways to make a difference. What stood out to you from all this as a source of hope?
For me, it's the stories of resilience and innovation. The people who are challenging the odds, creating new possibilities, and building a better future for themselves and their communities. It's a reminder that even in the face of systemic challenges, human ingenuity and compassion can shine through.
It's like a light in the darkness. It reminds us that change is possible, that a better world is within reach if we're willing to work for it.
And that brings us back to you. If you could distill one key takeaway from this deep dive, something to carry forward, what would it be?
I think it would be this: class is a powerful force, but it doesn't have to define us. We can challenge the systems that perpetuate inequality, and we can create a more just and equitable society. But it starts with each of us. It starts with the choices we make, the conversations we have, and the actions we take.
Beautifully said. And if you're interested in exploring these themes further, I highly recommend checking out the full text. It's available on Amazon Kindle and Google Play Books. You'll find even more in-depth analysis and fascinating stories that will deepen your understanding of this complex and ever-evolving subject.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll be back soon with another fascinating topic to explore. Until then, keep questioning, keep learning, and keep pushing for a better world.